My eggnog cookies with cake mix recipe is easy and delicious, so it's absolutely perfect for the holidays. However, it's probably a bit different from what you're expecting because I'm going to make these eggnog cookies without eggnog. I'll explain in a little bit. Here in this bowl, I have one 15.25 ounce box of white cake mix, along with one 3.4 ounce box of instant vanilla pudding. That's my base for easy cake mix sugar cookies, and on top of that base, I'm going to build the eggnog flavor. Over here, I have one large egg along with 3 egg yolks. I know it's a lot of yolks, but when I made my homemade eggnog recipe recently, I'll try to remember to include the link below. I had 8 egg yolks. It gives eggnog that characteristic flavor, so I'm gonna go with 1 egg and 3 egg yolks. Eggnog has cream and milk, so I'm gonna add some butter. I have 3 tablespoons of melted butter, or excuse me, 4 tablespoons of melted butter, which is half a stick. And I'm also going to add a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. You could do 1 full stick of melted butter, but I am going to go with this because butter has a lot of flavor and I don't want it to compete too much with the other flavors. I want it there, but I don't want it to overpower the cookies. I'm also going to add 1 teaspoon of nutmeg and half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and the really important ingredient, 1 teaspoon of rum extract. If you don't have rum extract, you could definitely use vanilla, but rum extract in addition to the vanilla from the instant pudding is going to give these eggnog cookies that characteristic flavor that you associate with eggnog. Like I said, these cookies are really easy. All I have to do is pour and mix. So, like I said, I'm making these eggnog cookies without eggnog. And I know you're probably thinking, Chef Parnell, that doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to add some eggnog to these cookies, and it does. However, if you look at a cookie recipe like chocolate chip cookies, it has fat, like butter, sometimes oil, and eggs, but it does not have a lot of liquid. A cake recipe has eggs and fat and liquid like buttermilk or milk or crushed pineapple, applesauce, something like that. If you add a liquid to these eggnog cookies, if you add actual eggnog, it is going to add flavor, but I think the moisture is going to give these cookies a cakey texture. Instead of being dense like cookies, they're going to turn out fluffy like little cakes. If that is what you want, or if you have some leftover eggnog from the holidays, from Christmas, that you want to use up, go ahead and I would replace the 1/4 cup of oil with a 1/4 cup of eggnog. But like I said, I think not adding a ton of extra moisture is going to give these cookies that characteristic cookie texture. My spices, like I said, this is super easy. I'm just literally pouring everything into the bowl. My teaspoon of rum extract. I need to get some more of this because I'm gonna have to make another batch of my homemade eggnog. It was so good. If you've never made eggnog, I highly recommend you follow my recipe. It is absolutely incredible. So now that everything is in the bowl, all I have to do is mix to combine. So after just a couple of minutes mixing, my eggnog cookie batter is done. I actually tasted it in spite of the raw eggs, and I have to admit, it definitely does taste like eggnog. The rum extract is a bit strong now, but once it bakes, I think it's going to be spot on. So I could bake these now, but I'm going to chill the dough. I'm going to wrap this in plastic, and I'm going to chill it for a couple hours. I think Really, you only need to chill it for an hour or so, but life is about to happen to me, so I'm not going to get to it for a couple hours. I ended up chilling the dough for a lot longer than I had expected. Life got in the way. It's actually been 17 hours, but you only need one. Now I'm going to bake my eggnog cookies with cake mix. Here I have my cookie sheet, actually a pizza pan that I'm using as a cookie sheet. I sprayed it with some canola oil. My oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm gonna peel back the plastic, and here I have a 1 tablespoon measurement, and I am going to scoop out cookies about like that. So maybe 1.5 tablespoons. Roll them into a ball and place them on the cookie sheet. If some are a little bit bigger than others, that is fine. That is totally fine. But like I said, plan for about 1.5 tablespoons. I scooped out some cookies, put them on the cookie sheet, and now I am going to flatten them with the bottom of the glass. I honestly don't think this is absolutely necessary, but these cookies chilled for a long time, and they're not just oil, they have butter, so I think that they might not spread quite as much as my normal cake mix cookies do. I don't want them to be too round, so I am going to flatten them out a little bit just to give them kind of a head start. Actually, you could probably just use your hand if you want. Like I said, this recipe is nice and easy. I'll go back through with my hand. You do not have to be perfect. My first batch of eggnog cookies with cake mix just came out of the oven. They were in for 12 minutes at 350 Fahrenheit, so a little bit longer than I had anticipated. I think it's because the dough was cool. 10 minutes if you don't chill the dough, maybe about 12 if you do. These look good. They look kind of dry around the edge, but still not quite done in the middle. That's just what you want. Now I'm going to let them cool down a little bit on the baking sheet for 5 minutes, then I'll transfer them to either a wire rack or a cool baking sheet. Now it's time to make the eggnog icing for our cookies. Here I have 1 cup or 120 grams of powdered sugar, to which I'm going to add half a teaspoon of rum extract and half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm not exactly sure how much eggnog I'm going to need, so I'm going to add maybe 1 to 2 teaspoons at a time, stir, and see if I need to add more. I have some water off to the side here because I want to show that you can definitely make this icing without eggnog. If you frost these cookies with eggnog icing, most people are going to tell you to keep the cookies in the refrigerator because of the milk, cream, and egg yolks. I'm going to be honest, I probably am just going to keep these on the counter because they're going to be gone pretty quickly. But like I said, most people are going to err on the safe side and they're going to tell you to put these in the refrigerator. If you want to be on the safe side and you still want to keep these cookies on the counter and not in the refrigerator, use water instead of eggnog. Just add a little at a time and see if you need to add more. Now I just added 2 teaspoons of my homemade eggnog to the powdered sugar, so I'm just going to mix it in to see if I need to add more, which I definitely do. Just keep adding and mixing until you reach a consistency that's spreadable yet not runny. I'm also going to sprinkle these cookies with some more nutmeg and cinnamon, but I'll do that after I get the eggnog icing on the cookies. I'm almost done mixing the eggnog into the powdered sugar. I used 5 teaspoons of eggnog for my 1 cup of powdered sugar. Let's give this a taste. Tastes delicious. Put the this over here. Now it's time to start frosting the cookies. If you want to, you could add a little bit of melted butter to the frosting, but honestly, I think it's going to be fine just as it is. You could also add some spices to it, but I want it to be white. I like that color. I think it's going to look nice against the more yellow color of the cookies. And then when I sprinkle on the spices, I think that color contrast will be nice. So maybe 1.5 teaspoons of frosting per cookie, I'll say, at least the smaller cookies. And I'll just spread it like that. I'm pretty sure this is going to dry hard, so it's going to be kind of like an eggnog sugar cookie. I think it's going to be awesome. I am going to frost these. You can see it's super easy. Just made a really quick frosting from powdered sugar, eggnog, vanilla extract, and rum extract. And I'm frosting the cookies, and then I will bring you back.
Out of 2 batches of the frosting, I was able to frost 14 cookies. I'm going to leave a few cookies plain so that I can see how they are. The frosting is actually starting to get hard right now. I'm sure you could see that there's a little bit of shine, especially off to the right, so it's time to sprinkle on the nutmeg and cinnamon. Just like the non-alcoholic eggnog recipe I made and the batter for these cookies, I am going to use 2 parts of nutmeg and 1 part of cinnamon. For these 14 cookies, I'm probably going to need 1 teaspoon of nutmeg and half a teaspoon of cinnamon. If you make this recipe, I would count on using at least that amount, but it's going to depend on how much you like to sprinkle on top of the cookies. Once all the frosted cookies have a dusting of nutmeg and cinnamon, set them aside for a couple hours so that the frosting can harden completely, and then enjoy. Although it should only take 2 to 3 hours maximum for the eggnog glaze to harden, life happened, so I didn't get to try these eggnog cookies until 8 hours later. But when I finally did get a chance to try them, I found out that these eggnog cookies with cake mix and eggnog icing were absolutely fantastic. First of all, the physical appearance. I honestly think I did a really good job of visually representing a glass of eggnog in a cookie. The cookie itself was slightly yellow, just like a lot of eggnog is because of all the egg yolks. The layer of eggnog icing on top of the cookie represented how a lot of people like to add some whipped cream to eggnog when they serve it. And the dusting of nutmeg and cinnamon on top of the icing definitely lets you know that these are eggnog cookies. Like I said earlier in the video, these eggnog cookies, even though they were made without eggnog in the cookie batter, definitely did taste like eggnog. The combination of multiple yolks, cinnamon and nutmeg, and most importantly of all, rum extract is what helped to give these cookies that classic eggnog taste without using actual eggnog. Even though adding eggnog to the cookie batter itself is logical, I really think you should do what I did here because, like I said earlier in the video, if you add a lot of moisture, I think these cookies are going to turn out kind of like little cakes, light and fluffy, and not thick and dense like a cookie should be. Honestly, these eggnog cookies with cake mix were super easy to make and they were super delicious, but I did want to point out a few things. First, maybe it's just me, but I feel like the flavor from rum extract wears off a lot faster than vanilla extract. So if you make these cookies and you know you're not going to eat them right away, maybe 2 or 3 days later, I highly recommend that you increase the rum extract to maybe 1.5 teaspoons. Second, I wanted to mention that the plain cookies without the eggnog icing were actually really good, especially when dunked into something like eggnog, milk, or black coffee. So when you make this eggnog cookie recipe, I suggest that you leave the eggnog icing off of a few of them so that you can see how they are dunked into something. I highly recommend black coffee. I was surprised the plain cookies were actually really good when dunked into black coffee. As I've already said, these eggnog cookies from Cake Mix with eggnog icing are absolutely delicious and they're super easy to make. These cookies are a little bit different from the traditional Christmas cookies, but they definitely have that classic taste, so I think you should give them a try. They would be perfect for the holidays. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.